Yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining us. And all I can see at the moment is the presentation, so I can't see how many people we've got. But it's really exciting to be launching today with my fellow co-chairs, and we will introduce ourselves in a minute. But to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about, we will do an introduction to Equal Engineers and some of the team online today. Thank you for joining us. We'll then introduce ourselves as the co-chairs and who we are and our backgrounds. The important bit, what is the network? What do we think the network might look like? And it's only an idea and a plan at this stage of what we think it could be. More importantly, we want to get to hear feedback from our guests on the call. What do you think a network should be? What do you think the network should be supporting you with? And how do you think it should be working for you? So it'd be quite good to get into the breakout sessions at the end and get your feedback. So when we do present our aims, our visions and ideas, it is very much what we think it could look like, not what the answer is at this stage. So it'll be really good to get through that. I'm going to hand over to Poggy, I think, first to start us off, Patrick, on the slide, and ask you to introduce your team and Equal Engineers. That'd be great.
Yes, no problem. I'm not quite sure why it has that name on there, but I'm Poggy Murray-Whittam. I'm the program manager for Equal Engineers. I started with Equal Engineers back in July of this year. I'm also the co-chair for Inter Engineering. I've been involved with Inter Engineering for around 4 years now. My role within Equal Engineers predominantly is overseeing the Skills Bootcamp program that we have running at the moment, but I also manage the 7 networks that we have under the Equal Engineers umbrella, as well as leading on the research side for the business, that being the part of that being the Masculinity in Engineering survey that we've just launched again for this year today, and various other bits and pieces related to business development and other things. Equal Engineers as a business, for anybody who is unfamiliar, is a DEI consultancy working specifically within the engineering sector, which was founded back in 2017 by Mark McBride Wright. In terms of the staff we have, it has grown quite a lot in the past couple of years, from a team of 2 or 3 to now a team of 8 or 9 people. We have Mark McBride Wright, who's the founder and CEO, myself as program manager, Fayon and Stuart, who are also on the call, are the engagement manager and education and training manager. Other members of the team.
Couple minutes. Oh no. Yeah.
So some other members of the team include Luigi and Elio, who work very closely together on the digital side of things. So Elio being the digital media lead and Luigi being a program and events associate. Annabelle is a learning and education developer, and Kat up in Scotland is an education coordinator. So we work together on a number of things. Kat does a lot of the OSTEM and DNE outreach with schools. Annabelle helps quite a lot on the Safe Leader program and on the Skills Bootcamp program as well. So it's a very diverse team. We all come from different backgrounds. There's only 2 actual engineers in the team, which is Mark and myself. My background is in automation engineering. I spent 10, 11 years working for global automation manufacturer suppliers, working my way up from entry level through to senior management, and then made the decision to come across into the DEI refocus, I should say, into the DEI space. So that's us as a company, that's us as a team. Something that I mentioned before quite briefly was the Masculinity in Engineering survey. So this is a piece of research that we've done 2 iterations of previously in 2019 and 2022. Some of the results of those, the reports of those, are still on the website if anybody is interested to read those. Some of the statistics that we found as part of that research was quite concerning, particularly relating to mental health, self-harm and suicidal ideation, people who had tried to take their own lives previously in engineering. As some of you may be aware, suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 in the UK, and some statistics that we found were that men in construction are 3.7 times more likely to try to take their own life than the national average. With that in mind, we did the research back in 2019 and 2022, we found in 2019 that 1 in 5 respondents had previously considered self-harm or taking their own life. And unfortunately, that statistic actually declined quite significantly from 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 in 2022. I mean, obviously, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, which happened just after that first piece of research that we did. But that's still quite concerning in such a short space of time to increase from 1 in 5 to 1 in 4. Something else that we found that that was quite interesting was despite the media coverage of discussions about mental health and mental well-being, particularly over the COVID-19 pandemic, there was no increase in people feeling more comfortable talking about stress or depression with their employer in that 3 years, which is something that we should have expected, really, to see. So, sorry, can you go on to the next slide, please, whoever's controlling this?
Yeah, we can come back to some of that later. I think the statistics are a bit later on, but
okay, sure.
Keep going with your narrative because it's really important to why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, so that's my piece. And I thought the masculinity and engineering slide was next, but yeah, we'll come back to that.
Thank you very much. And it's really important, probably what you were just saying, the survey and the data and the results and all the work that you as a team and a company have done to kind of highlight some of the issues around men's mental health in particular, and masculinity within engineering. And obviously that's led to the setup and launch of both the men's network and the women's network with Equal Engineers. So you've met the team and the Equal Engineers team. We're now going to introduce the 4 of us as your co-chairs and who we are. We're volunteers working with the company and we're going to be running the network. So we'll introduce ourselves first. So I'm Jamie Chestnut. I've got a background in engineering. I started in the Royal Navy working with helicopters. I did 25 years of that before joining Chessington World of Adventures to go and run a theme park, because obviously that's what you do when you leave the military. And then I spent 3.5 years there with Chessington, and I've spent the last 3 years at the RNLI, the Lifeboat Institute, as a director there. So it's been a really interesting career in engineering, but a lot of what I've done is around safety and development of wellbeing and diversity. So I'm now doing that as a speaker and a consultant in my own right, which is an exciting place to be. And as part of that, I'm delighted to be helping Equal Engineers. I've been an ally across many networks and organizations, young professionals and women's networks in particular. I've done a lot of work on wellbeing and recently won an award for that as well, which is quite exciting. I'm very much involved in DEI. So for me, it's really exciting to be here as a co-chair of the network and to be launching this alongside Chris, who we'll introduce next.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So I'm Chris Hamlin. Really delighted to be here as well and to be co-chairing the men's network. So my background is that I always often describe my career as being a career of 2 halves and 3/3, which is kind of self-evident, I guess. But the 2 halves of the first half of my career was really spent in manufacturing in the chemical industry, most of that on Teesside and a lot of that around process control, but involved in supply chain and logistics and commercial operations and what have you. Second half of the career was more in consulting, so helping the industry in general understand how to use technology more effectively. And that's culminated in running my own company with my wife, Hancock Hamlin, which is really dedicated more to actually towards development of engineers and engineering in order to try and address big societal problems. The 3/3 really is a recognition that the first 2/3 of my career were really focused on productivity, efficiency, profitability. It was all about money. But the last third has been much more enlightened, in my view, really part with sustainability becoming mainstream in industry, kind of shifting my focus to that. And that's then led me into organizational effectiveness, which then leads into leadership and personal development. Upshot of it all being that I'm also now a qualified coach. And actually, it's probably the most rewarding thing that I do right now is coaching individuals from master's students through to executives in terms of how they develop themselves, and in doing that, develop their roles and their impact on society. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. And obviously, as we're launching the men's network, we're launching alongside our women's network. It's really important we work together and collaborate. So delighted to have Maxine and Amelia with us today. So Maxine.
Good morning. Absolutely delighted to work with everybody on here and to be part of Equal Engineers. My background, I am not an engineer. I spent, like Jamie, I spent 35 years in the Royal Navy, concentrating on logistics and management, really. And my current role is now an environmental health and safety coordinator, about to become an advisor, which is really good for me as well, with a very large engineering, nuclear and construction company. I've been involved with EDI since my Royal Navy days, so it's coming up for 30 years now. And as each stage, as it's developed, it's changed its name as we've gone through. I am a mental health first aider, and I have been for quite some time. And I'm also the health and wellbeing champion here at the project, which is really important to me. And like Chris, I have a background in coaching. I'm a level 5 coach. And one of the best roles I had in the Royal Navy was actually looking after the most complex wounded, injured and sick personnel in the Navy, which really opened my eyes to really what a mental health first aider is, and how we can support each other. And it's not always easy, and probably you talked about suicide, and I had to face that as well, and it's not nice. Now I'm in the construction industry, where it is also, as you say, really prevalent, and unfortunately it is growing. So anything that we can do to support and help each other is absolutely vital. And so I'm not from a STEM background, but I really am a strong advocate, and I'm really passionate about expanding, as it says, the highlighting the profile of women and the issues, professionally and personally, that sometimes we face. And there's a bit of a legacy here in that generally, if we look back over centuries and decades, engineering has been more centered on males, and that's just the way in which it comes across. But we need to really push strongly now, so that this is a role for anybody and everybody can work in the STEM and become an engineer. And I'm absolutely delighted that I've been given this opportunity to work with all of the fellow co-chairs, not just the men's network, but all of the networks sitting under equal engineers, and to push this forward. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Thank you, Maxine. And Amelia.
So I'm pretty new in my engineering journey. I'm still an apprentice with Amazon at the moment, but I am in my final sort of year and coming towards my EPA. So hopefully before Christmas, I'll be able to say I'm a technician and an engineer, but not quite yet. I'm still learning and still will be for plenty of years, I'm sure. But already within the few years I've been in the engineering industry, I've had a few encounters of that bias, and seeing that women do get treated differently in some areas of engineering, and we're not represented as widely in it. And so in my sort of second year of being an apprentice, I joined the Women's Engineering Society and was working on their apprentice board, just in a way to sort of connect female engineering apprentices across different companies and across the industry. I was the only one at my site, and so sometimes it was a little bit lonely, and so I helped connect everyone together. I chaired that board and held the first female engineering networking event, and that was really successful. It was really powerful to have like 50 young female engineering apprentices in one room. But now I've sort of had more time in the industry, I can quite clearly see that it's not just women that's been affected by this diversity problem in engineering. And so I've joined Equal Engineers to co-chair the Women's Network with Maxine, and work closely with Jamie and Chris on the Men's Network to sort of help out across all aspects of inclusivity in engineering. So yeah, we're really excited to launch both networks and see what you guys want from us. So I'll hand it back to Jamie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Amelia. So that's us as a team. You've met the Equal Engineers team and the 4 of us who are going to be taking this forwards with them. What we'd like to do now is just talk about what we think our aims are for the network. So Chris will talk about the men's network, and then Maxine and Amelia will talk about the women's network, and what we think it looks like, a short summary of each. And then in the breakout, we have a chance to explore this further. So Chris, over to you.
Well, thanks, Jamie. So, I mean, just re-emphasize, Jamie's comments at the start of this, that this is our kind of initial thought. Imagine it, our framework to be dismantled by the rest of you and reassembled in the way that it needs to be. But as Jamie and I have kind of talked through the need for a men's network in engineering and what that network wants to be or might try to be, we've kind of set up initially with the idea that we see employee representative groups and networks of all sorts of different types in all sorts of organizations, and quite a lot of resources potentially being available to those groups, with the probable exception of men's groups. So we'd like to be first and foremost the network for network leaders, or people who are maybe inspired or thinking about or considering setting up a masculinity group or a men's network or a men's work group within their own organizations or their own communities. So we'd like to be a kind of a focal point for people that are doing that, so that essentially spreading the word and actually sharing best practices in that sense. Also, we recognize there is a role for us as a place for people who don't have access to networks as well. But ideally, I think our mission or our vision is that we'd like to inspire others to set up networks in their own communities to provide more visible, more present support for people. Now, when we get into, well, what is it we need to do? Why is there a need for this? I think first and foremost, it's recognition of the need to address the majority. Depending on how you look at it, we know that 85 to 90% of people in this industry, in this sector in its broadest sense, are white men. And inclusivity needs to, first of all, include that group, but also needs to be driven and pioneered and allied and inspired by that set of people. And I know from my own personal experience, that's a pretty unnerving place to be without backup and support. If you want to actually be an advocate or an ally, it's hard to know where to go to find out how to do that, to understand what's appropriate and what's not, to actually help to bring about the change we'd all like to see when you're part of the significant majority that to a certain extent maintains the existing norms and perhaps prejudices of the industry. So first of all, it's about addressing the majority. Poggy's already talked through some of the alarming statistics associated with our sector as well, around mental health, around suicide ideation. One of the things I hope we get into is the extent to which those alarming statistics, 370% more likely to successfully complete a suicide if you work in this sector as a man over the general population. That's not just a little bit, that's a phenomenally higher level of risk. Whether that's because of the sector or not, that would be an interesting discussion to have. What is it? Why do we see that correlation? Because we can only say it's a correlation at this point. But given the correlations there, the potential to do good, the potential to actually help and support men who are struggling and are part of the industry that we're a part of, we have access to them. What can we do to help and support those people? And perhaps the third aim, perhaps a significant piece of that is what it means to provide positive role models for men in the sector. All too often, as men working in engineering, there's an awful lot of what we shouldn't be, what we shouldn't do, what's inappropriate, the idea of toxic masculinity, which undoubtedly exists, but actually impacts men as significantly as well, let's put it that way, right? But what are the positives? What actually should we be aspiring to? What represents best practice, best behavior? What inspires others to also take a stand and provide some leadership in this space? So those are our thoughts really about why we think the network's important and what we set out to be. But we're really, really excited about having a conversation with people in the breakouts and beyond that about what you all want to see from a men's network in this space. Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. And then Amelia and Max will talk about the women's network and then what, on the next slide, what we might expect from a network.
So me and Max had a really quick brainstorm when we first sort of became co-chairs together. And we sort of laid out these 3 titles and sort of we will hope to expand on them in the breakout rooms with you so that we can figure out what you guys exactly want. But our first point was sort of all about women. And that was sort of an idea of an in-person event to have it really based and focused on women in engineering and have it so that we can put a lot of different sort of speeches together and resources that will support women in engineering and for them to just be able to access whenever they need or feel like they need to or connect with other women. The second one, retention of women, is a really big downfall for women in engineering. We have a really bad, for some reason, rate of being able to keep women in engineering, and we want to find out exactly why. And so this one's going to be more of a research sort of engagement with everybody part of the network to find out what could help you stay within your industry and stick within your engineering company and job, and find out what is causing women to leave, and then possibly be able to provide this research to companies so that they can sort of edit their engineering roles to see fit and help women stay within the industry. And lastly, working together to support each other. So this is going to be sort of what resources you guys think we need, anything like the men's network with role modeling or coaching or one-to-ones, sort of a spark of ideas from the network, hopefully, to see what exactly you guys want from us to work together to support each other. And this will also be in collaboration with the other networks, so with the men's network and Internet Engineering, for us to all work together to see what we all can do to help each other and make our engineering sort of roles work better together.
Brilliant. And Maxine, are you talking to this one?
Yeah, so I think for all of us, all of our networks, what we would really like to aspire to, and we'd really like to get to, particularly in 2025, is we want 4 main events per network per year. And that can be, as we've talked about, collaboration, and it is vital across, as we've got a men's work network, we've got the women's networks, and we do have other networks on here as well. So it's really important that we do support each other, but I know 4 main events per network per year, and we can join those together to get maximum capacity and to get maximum fruition from them as well. And as we've already mentioned, in-person events and panels. So, people may come out and say it'd be really good one month to talk about, I don't know, Pride Month, for example. How does that affect us in our workplace, and how are people feeling? There is also Infertility Month, which is a very it's a very emotive topic, but it affects an awful lot of people, and we don't think about that. So what we need is people to come up and say, it'd be really good if we can talk about this, and we can have a panel and get some discussions going. Key themes, networks, how we all, Chris mentioned it as well. These networks here are for other people to plug into. We're kind of looking at being an umbrella, for want of a better phrase, an umbrella network or networks where you can come, whether you're an individual and you want some advice on how you can start one up in your own company, or whether or not you're already there and you're saying, well, actually, we can do. So we want to be pooling ideas. And as Amelia said, there's always going to be like a reference library that we can add to, and we welcome people to come and say, well, actually, we do this in our company, and somebody else might do that. So somebody can pluck bits out. It's a bit like our leadership skills. All of our leadership styles are taken from people that we've worked with, and we look at them and go, oh, I quite like that. And without thinking about it, we pluck little bits from them, and that makes us who we are. That makes us the individuals that we are. So doing that kind of thing, so we've got this in our company and it works really well, but we'd really like to do this, and somebody else saying, actually, that bit doesn't work well, we could do that, but actually we do this. So really encouraging conversation, because when we collaborate and we communicate, this is where the most fantastic ideas come out, and where we expand our networks, and we really do become a force to be reckoned with as our own networks, be it for your company and actually particularly for Equal Engineers. So, and Chris, highlighted this. This is all about us helping other networks as well as individuals. Spotlight discussions. We've introduced ourselves as co-chairs. It'd be really cool to have somebody else as a I'm running a men's network for company B. Well, come and talk to us about it. Come and talk about what this company can offer. Somebody else coming from another engineering or non-engineering background. Okay, Equal Engineers who say, I'm not an engineer. STEM covers a vast majority, and Amelia used the term technician. There's a discussion at the moment, are you an engineer or are you a technician? Does it matter? Collaboration and teamwork is the whole thing. Virtual panels, as we've already said, that can be, we've said, events and additional support events through the year. I mentioned, Infertility Month. there is menopause, there is suicide, there is Armed Forces Month, there is child awareness. There is, at the moment, we've just had Children in Need going on, and Paddy's done this most amazing ride of 300 miles on a chopper bike. Well, I'm old enough to know what a chopper bike is like, and that is really, really difficult with no gears. But again, it's inviting things in. Has a company got something going on that they want to talk about with somebody else and they want to expand, be it for fundraising? There's all sorts of things. So this is plowing all the ideas in together, and then let's all work together to really promote engineering and the associated works that go with it. Because when we have engineering, we have logistics, we have HR, we have diversity, we have inclusion, we have so many different things. So what we're asking for is just for you to give us your ideas, and then we will do our best to take them forward, and let's see if we can just get this going. And it's not going to happen overnight. This is going to take a lot of work, but we need the input to start with, and then we promise we will do our best to support you in every which way that we can. So it says, would you like to be part of organising or leading? We welcome others, because I'm telling you, you don't want to just keep listening to us 4 or 5 or 6. Okay, as good looking and as good as we are, we don't need that. So yeah, come on board, and let's all work together. Let's get this. The key is in the word network. Okay, that's what this is all about. It is networking. So let's work together and move forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Maxine. So future events, there'll be, as Maxine's already said, the International Women's Day or Women in Engineering Day. We will talk about masculinity in engineering results and the discussions that come out from that survey that Poggy's already mentioned. We'll come back to that in a minute. We can look at role modeling, masculinity at work, better allyship. These are ideas that we've had as a team when we've been talking together with the 4 of us about what it might look like and where we might go with some of these topics and what else we're going to engage with. As Maxine's already said, it's not limited to a very small list. We can open it up to anywhere we need to go as a team. So it depends what you as members would like from us. But there's some examples. Poggy's already mentioned this and the statistics that came up from it. The survey is live as of today. The QR code at the bottom will allow you to engage with it. We will share it through Equal Engineers. I'm sure all of us will be sharing the links ourselves. This is not all about men filling in a survey. This is everyone in engineering can fill it in. We want all opinions, male and female, across the spectrum, so we understand kind of where engineering is at the moment and how it feels and how it's moved on. Poggy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just reinforcing that point. This isn't just for men to fill this in. We want anybody who works within engineering or is an engineer to complete this survey. We did see a widening of the gap of the perception of engineering culture between responses from men and women between the 2019 and 2022 surveys, and getting as much data as we can about that is really important.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We will be sharing a lot more on that over the next month or so, as it is now live, and encouraging as many people to take part as possible. So that'd be really good.
Thank you.
We are available to talk to, so we've got email addresses for both the men's network and the women's network, so people can email us directly with their own ideas. We are on LinkedIn, obviously, as Equal Engineers, and we're posting. And having introduced ourselves as a team, if you wanted direct conversations with each of us, we are available. But the men's network, women's network email address is a really easy way to start. So what we're going to do now, I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute so I can see you all again. So we're back on screen, is we're going to move into the breakout sessions, and we would like you to join us in each of the rooms. By some technological mastery and magic, this is going to work. And then we can have conversations about what do we think the networks are going to be. Before we break out into those rooms, anyone got any kind of comments for the whole forum? Anything you want to raise across the whole team? Nothing specific. In which case, ask the Equal Engineers team to do the magic that is, and we'll end up in a breakout room.